Hello Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. Welcome to your horoscope for the lunar eclipse happening in Scorpio on the 15th of May if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, or the 16th of May if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me. Now, a little note, we won't see it if we're in the Southern Hemisphere this time around because it's happening at like 1:32 in the afternoon if you're on the East Coast, but we can look forward to the visual feast in November when we have the full moon eclipse in Taurus. Lunar eclipses start to actualize that shedding that we had discussed 2 weeks ago with the solar eclipse in Taurus. This is where we'll start to see the movement in our 3D environment. We'll start to feel the shifts and the changes that are being instigated to put us back on our path, the one that we need to go down. If we've strayed, if you're co-creating every single day, then you're probably on the right track. But you know what? It's still a power outage, so we'll see what happens. Scorpio rules your 12th house, which is the unconscious. It's the house of dreams and the underworld and stuff that we don't talk about. Not that we can't, it's just that we don't because it's impossible. It's our perception of the world around us, how we interact with that. In some ways, it's also the house of incarceration because of humanity's questionable history about how we care for those that are neurodivergent. To have an eclipse here tells me that there might be some power outage in terms of your dreamscape. There might be some really difficult to ignore, hyper-descriptive images that are coming to you in dreams. There might be messages that are recurring over this period of time, and that I would take as spirit needing you to take this lesson. So to describe all of this, I'm going to talk you through the planetary aspects, but I also have tarot cards that correlate with each of the points that these planets are activating during this eclipse. Now, there are three major players in this eclipse, not just the sun and the moon. They form a T-square with Saturn, who's in Aquarius right now. Saturn is the planet of restriction, the planet of, in a low vibration, it's the planet of the gag order, of oppression. In a higher vibration, it's the rule book and what we can learn and find in the user manual of life and apply that forevermore. A T-square is difficult energy. It's each planet trying to gain supremacy in some way. So Saturn, in its restrictive abilities, is really trying to muscle its way into the effects of this eclipse. So I want to talk to you about that. The moon is at 25 degrees in Scorpio, which is represented by the Seven of Cups. Now, this is the card of illusionary success. This is the space where we have many potential directions to follow our emotional body and choices to be made in regard to emotional fulfillment, but we've made no active steps towards any of them. They're all just hypotheses or ponderances or fantasies right now. We haven't actioned anything into existence. Opposing that, at 25 degrees in Taurus, we have the Seven of Pentacles, which is a kind of opposing energy too. It describes the moment where we have acted, where we have planned, where we have put in labor, where we have cared for and tilled and tended to the land and planted seeds. However, we're exhausted and nothing's growing yet, and we wonder if it ever will. Saturn is at 25 degrees in Aquarius. That's the card of the thief, or in some ways, truth that is being concealed or left out of the equation. And we've got to think to ourselves, what are we withholding, or what is being withheld from us in that way? Now, for you, as a Sag rising, Aquarius rules your third house of communication. So I would probably suggest that this might be something to do with your voice. What are you leaving out in order to keep things the way that they were? And how is this desperation affecting your ability to go with the changes of the eclipse? So the moon is in your 12th house of dreams. The sun is in your 6th house of your daily rituals, chopping the wood, paying the bills, showing up, your responsibilities. What are you leaving out that will potentially, if you let it out, start that activation of your emotional body. What choice will you make? What cup will you choose if you be honest with yourself? So that's all up in the sky. That's the literal planetary aspects and the tarot cards that relate to each of those points. I've also pulled 3 cards for a private Sagittarius reading. So these cards will help me sort of work on the advice that we need to find and how we can best co-create with this energy that's flying above us. For you, I pulled the 5 of Pentacles, the 9 of Pentacles, and Temperance. The 5 of Pentacles we discussed last time. The 5 of Pentacles is that fear of being left out in the cold, of being cast out of the group, of having no access to the help that you need, of being cast asunder in some way. The door closing. The 9 of Pentacles, however, is an embodiment of independence. It's somebody who has waited for those pentacles to grow and has tended and worked very hard and now is experiencing the fruits of their labor. Temperance is a Sagittarius card, which is really lovely that it's come out for your reading specifically. Sagittarius is the angel that guides us to temper our water with our fire, to allow our passion to inform our emotional body, and vice versa. Our emotional body is informed by our passions, and how can we let that beautiful synergy aid us in co-creation, and what beautiful gifts will come from that experience. So Sag, I want you to think about what you're not saying, and I want you to think about what you're worried about choosing and also what you're fed up with, because this will all provide an answer for you, and it will lead you to that space of independence and self-embodiment. You're perfect just the way that you are, Sagittarius, with no input from others. And I wonder what group you're worried about being cast out of. I wonder what structure you're worried about losing. Because if you let that go, then this embodiment will aid in your beautiful message of fire and water, of passion and drive and sexuality and fire, creative inspiration, and your emotional needs, what you need to feel seen and heard, and your allowance to be vulnerable in the company of other people. This is going to be a really great eclipse season, Sag, and please do remember that everything that materializes over this time, everything that rears its head that you see, is going to inform your development over the next 14 months or so. So consider this the starting gun going off. This eclipse is the pressure cooker blowing its whistle. Stop leaving things out. Don't be frightened to communicate. Tell the truth. You're entitled to. I'm going to leave it here, Sag. If you wanted a private tarot reading, I do offer them on my website at umaruby.com. I can also read your birth chart if that's something that you wanted to learn more about. Your planetary placements are triggered by the activation in the sky and the current movements. It's a really profound thing to learn and understand, and give yourself a bit of reprieve to find your place in the greater stratosphere and know that it's not more important or less important than anybody else's, and how our movements can inform and be guided by the planetary movements. All my very best to you. I'm sending you so much love for this eclipse, and I look forward to talking to you in about 2 weeks when we can look at a new moon in Gemini, which is an exciting one for you, because this is where we can start to manifest our next sacred coupling, our next lover, or if we have existing ones of those, how can we honor that beautiful exchange? How can we improve and use our communication even more to gain a deeper understanding of those that we love? Until then, I love you, and I'll speak to you later on. Ta-da.